the more you do it, the better you're going to get at it. There's a great like Ira Glass clip where he talks about making art and about how your work doesn't match your tastes quite yet, but after doing it and doing it, eventually you'll get to that point.
Good afternoon, director Jeff Mann of the film Paper Marriage. Jeff, how are you today?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing well. I'm thrilled that you're here, and I'm thrilled that Paper Marriage is playing in your hometown on Valentine's Day. Do you feel like it's a Valentine's Day film?
Yeah, I think so. It's about
Yeah.
love and finding what's lovable about somebody. I wrote it based off of me and my fiance's our dynamics when we started dating. So it was, yeah.
Was she able to review the script, or what was that part like? Were you like, because I would imagine even on this podcast, I know my wife is listening to it, so I can't really be not that I have anything to say about my wife, that dynamic of knowing that somebody that you care about is going to read something.
Yeah. I definitely sent her the script more so for like feedback, because my fiance doesn't really like movies. She likes rom-coms. So I sent it to her, to see what she thought about it. And I don't think it's the kind of rom-com that she likes. She did give me
but she loves it because you made it, right?
Exactly.
That's awesome.
I don't know if I told her directly. I'm sure she recognized some things that were parallel. My fiance's, her real favorite color is black, which was a shock to me the first time she told me that, because I've never heard of that before. But yeah, I think the only thing that her big criticism was there was no closure at the end, and I had to explain to her why I ended it that way.
Before we get to that, can you tell people a little bit about the story of Paper Marriage and then how you got started in filmmaking? Was it something you knew right away as a kid that you were going to go into this, or was it something that you found you had a talent for later on?
Yeah, where should I begin? So yeah, Paper Marriage, it's my debut feature after making shorts for a long time. Yeah, it's a story about two people who are getting married because the woman needs a green card and she's paying the gentleman, myself, to marry her. And it's a series of vignettes as they try to get to know each other to prepare for this USCIS interview where they have to prove that they know each other and see the beauty in each other and articulate that to somebody. No, my path was zigzagged
all the way around.
Yeah, I grew up in a family. Now, everybody in my family loved movies growing up. I watched a lot of movies when I was a kid, and those movies were my babysitter growing up. And then I didn't realize this until like really thinking about it. My parents never took me to movies, but
oh wow,
they went to movies and they just brought me with them. These days, you would take your kid to go see like the latest
Marvel.
Disney.
Yeah,
they just took me to the stuff that they wanted to go see, and I don't think... So I saw a lot of things that I probably weren't like age appropriate. Like I remember seeing The Last Emperor when I was like 6 years old in the theater, and it was pretty intense experience.
Not really a 6-year-old film.
Yeah, I don't know, this might be doing some psychoanalyzing, but I saw how much my parents admired filmmakers and movie stars and stuff like that, and that might have motivated me somehow to be one of those people, because I was always a quiet kid that felt this. I'm not blaming my parents, but I always felt like, I don't know, maybe I was unloved or something like that.
No, I know what you mean.
But I never thought it was like a feasible career path for me. So I think it was around high school that I started taking interest in writing. I always liked reading growing up. And then I think in high school, I wrote like a short story that my teacher wanted to submit to a literary magazine and stuff like that. And then at the time, I was reading a lot of like Roger Ebert and like sports columnists and like the Washington Post and stuff like that. And I started writing for my school paper, and then I thought I wanted to be Roger Ebert. So I set off on a path to become a film critic. And then, so that was my goal in college. And then when I actually started doing it in college, after maybe 3 years or so, I decided I didn't like it anymore because I didn't this was probably me being like a cocky kid thinking I could be Ebert right away, but nobody cared what I thought about movies. I felt like I would write these passionate reviews about like a movie like City of God or something like that, and then
Right.
still found that people went to go see the junk that came out at the multiplex, and it would upset me all the time. So yeah, after I graduated, I thought I was going to be like a journalist maybe. So I was pursuing that, and out of nowhere, I saw this like ad for the AFI summer camp at in Silver Spring at Montgomery
Oh,
College, and I
cool.
took that, and then had a lot of fun with that, and learned a lot, and then took a class with one of the instructors there at Montgomery College, and then he hired me as a production assistant for this cable network that started called Retirement Living Television that surprisingly
Yes.
lasted only a year.
Wait, you've made things. Do we have any clips of that, Jeff? Of like things that you made for
Retirement
retired
Living.
living kids?
I don't know if it's like online anymore. I produced like a couple of segments while I was there, which was like
Yes,
good experience. But yeah, I don't know if that stuff is available anymore.
that'd be fun.
Yeah. And then after I got laid off from that job, hopped on this documentary with these two filmmakers, Eric Byler and Annabelle Park. It was this documentary about this immigration battle that was happening in Prince William County.
Oh, cool.
And that was like my film school, but I learned a lot like working next to those two. And then, yeah, when that finished, I was thinking about what to do next and made the move to LA. And when I was in LA, I was pretty depressed because I couldn't get a job or anything for like a year and realized that I didn't really have the training to work on set or anything. So I emailed one of my favorite directors, Jay Duplass, out of nowhere, and he responded. And I ended up having breakfast with him. And I started just like working for him. And he hired me as his assistant. And then during that time, I was making a lot of shorts, and he would read my scripts and watch my cuts and give me feedback and mentored me. And that kind of led me to the path of Paper Marriage. So it
This
was
is so fucking epic, Jeff. I mean, you think about how many people move to LA and
yeah.
then can't make it work. And without going to film school, just being persistent, you made it work. That's really awesome.
Yeah, I got really lucky. Yeah. I don't know what I'd be doing right now if I never met.
Well,
Yeah.
like luck is one of those things that, as Thomas Edison, luck favors the prepared mind. This idea that somehow, if you're going to keep fighting at it, good things will happen. And it
Right.
sounds like it happened in that case. The thing that's great about Paper Marriage um, is that you write it, you wrote it, you directed it, you star in it. What was that decision like? Like, were you saying, you know what, I'm the only one who can play this character? Was it always in your mind you were going to write it and direct your feature? Were you just, fuck it, I'm going to make what I want to make? Who cares what anyone else thinks? What was the thought process behind taking on all three of those roles?
Right. I actually didn't have a choice. What led me to, so I made a short film called Santa Claus, like back in
Okay.
2017, I think it was. And at the time, I never really thought about pursuing acting, but people always just put me in their stuff. My friends put me in their comedy sketches. And then I'm in Togetherness, which is the Duplass Brothers TV show for a few seconds where I sing karaoke. And then I'm in Creep 2 and people just kept asking me to be in stuff. And yeah, one day I wrote this short Santa Claus, and it was based off of how I was feeling at that time, like down and depressed and not feeling great. And I just said, you know what, I'm just going to act in it and see what happens. I called my friends who were going to help me with it. And I just said, hey, I'm going to act in this also. If this sucks, I'm never going to do it again, but we're just going to try it and see what happens. And
Yes.
yeah, we made it, and it ended up being the most successful thing I ever made. Like the responses we got at film festivals was very different. And I got into LA Film Festival at the time, which was like really big. And so from there, I'd been working with Jay all that time, but Mark Duplass noticed the short was doing
Right.
well, and he watched it. And I actually developed a TV show at Duplass for a year based around the short. That never materialized, or like it never got a chance to shoot or anything like that. But they really liked my performance in that and thought there was a chance that I could act and stuff.
Oh,
So when they gave me the opportunity to make Paper Marriage, one of the stipulations was I had to be one of the characters in it. Yeah, I didn't. If if you gave me a chance right now and didn't have that, I probably wouldn't. If it was my first feature, I probably wouldn't have done that. But because it was
That's so
done,
cool.
yeah,
Yeah, you hear so many times about people getting like writers submitting things and they're told, "We'll take this, but you can't direct it or you can't be involved with it." But instead, it sounds like they gave you the opposite. They were like, "You have to be involved in it," which is really a fantastic sort of an opportunity for you.
yeah. It was quite daunting, and a lot of preparation went into it to make sure that I wasn't what sank the ship. So
Were you ever on set complaining about the director, Jeff?
all the time, I think, yeah. Actually, the production itself was a lot of fun and
Okay.
shockingly really smooth. It was more so pre-production where I was freaking out the most.
Yeah.
Like when you're not doing stuff and just imagining all the things that could go wrong.
Right.
Those were the times when I think I got the most scared and thought about packing all my stuff and driving away and so to somewhere where nobody could ever find me, so I didn't have to do this.
Did you do most of your direction to yourself? It's acting like you're more than one person, but did you lay out like how you were going to act this like before in pre-production? So when you got on set, you were able to know, like, obviously you gave guidance to the other characters, but you had yourself taken care of.
Yeah, a lot of it was done in like pre-production with the DP Norbert and producer Angela. A lot of discussions about what's supposed to happen in the scene and what we're trying to get out of it so that they knew also because I wasn't going to watch monitors, so I needed somebody to be like my eyes and ears. Yeah, essentially Angela would watch the takes, and then when we would yell cut, I would make sure that we got what we were looking for or what we had discussed, and then she would come back with a note or two that we could try this or try that or something like that. And then yeah, I think in the moment when you're like acting in it, you feel stuff out for what might have been missing, and then I would confirm that with her, and then we would, yeah, make adjustments from there.
That's awesome. You're
Yeah.
coming in, Jeff, on February 14th to
Yep.
probably one of the most politically polarizing times in Washington D.C. with an immigration film. These are probably questions you're going to be asked. Generally speaking, I noticed it did premiere at the Los Angeles Asian Pacific Film Festival. Do
Right.
you have thoughts regarding this conversation regarding immigration, DEI, or are you pretty much just going to say, you know what, I'm going to let the film speak for itself. I'm not going to get involved in any sort of the political rhetoric regarding this. Take from it what you will. I'm here just to be a filmmaker.
Yeah. I think I can't really speak on policy and stuff like that. I'm not really an expert. Actually, the other film, if anybody wants to really talk about that stuff, that documentary I worked on, 9500 Liberty, is a great film to watch if you want to talk about policy and that sort of thing. This one is more just like I think the more, I didn't look at making a political statement with this
Right.
film going into it. It was just more like a human story. But I think if one way to think about it is it's a movie about giving somebody a chance. These two characters, Fanny and Jeff, have to essentially put their own expectations aside and their own preconceived notions of the other person and who they are, and really look at them, at the other person and their value and who they are, and essentially just give them a chance, which is what immigration is all about. And my parents are immigrants.
Right.
A lot of my family and friends are immigrants, and they never got a chance to come to America and start a life. They wouldn't. I wouldn't be here, sitting here talking with you right now. I think the one thing. I think the one thing that I've learned is, in line with this, like giving somebody a chance thing. It seems like these days there's a lot of like dehumanization going on.
Right.
The way that narratives are shaped, and people are like really emotional right now. It seems in a lot of the stuff that you see in media is
Right.
feeds into those emotions, and that's the kind of dangerous thing. And those are the things that we saw when we made that documentary. That, yeah, obviously, I don't think those things can be explored in paper marriage, but yeah, if I were to comment, those are the things that I'm seeing that are dangerous.
Because 100% that's going to come up, Jeff, at the screening on February. So you're going to take questions afterwards. I'm sure somebody will ask that. The
Yeah,
good thing is, I do feel like DC, of all like the independent filmmakers in DC, probably have one sort of political view. But have you
right.
taken the film to any sort of place like that may have a more controversial view of the paper marriage? Has the film screened? Do you receive any feedback that you would consider, whoa, man, you're taking that a little too harsh, or has that really not occurred since the time you've had screenings with the film?
No, not really. At least nobody's
That's
really
awesome.
approached us or said anything.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think, yeah. We've screened a lot in the Midwest and
Okay.
everybody has a good time with it and like root for the characters. I think at the end of the
That's
day,
awesome.
yeah. You
Because
know,
that's what art should do, right? Is it like you're not there to tell people how to think. You're there to show, here's something that I came up with, a story acted, by the way, Jeff,
right.
and you're showing them a good time, a narrative story. It's not meant to be like some sort of doctrinaire. Here's what you should think about immigration. So if you think that's what's going to happen with Paper Marriage, that's not it. It's a fun rom com, perfect for February 14th.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead, Jeff.
Yeah, and I think the idea at the end of the day is do you root for these characters and stuff like that?
Yep.
Never mind what they're doing. Who among us haven't lied or been dishonest or at one point in our lives? There you might have mixed feelings about what they're doing, and I have talked to USCIS people about this whole process and but it's really about just this woman who's in this desperate situation and this is her way out of it. I don't yeah, I guess thinking about the kind of movies that I respond to the most, they're not. If I wanted to be preachy or have a point of view about it, I probably would have made a documentary. But
Right.
yeah, I agree with you. Like good art should ask questions more so than tell you like how to think and stuff like
Absolutely.
that.
So when I was doing research on this, that's when I came across where I think Mark Duplass tweeted that he had worked with you for almost 15 years. I'm like, wow, okay, that now it makes
Right.
sense. What was that experience like? I know they've been innovative in terms of distribution of films. You've mentioned that they said, Jeff, you have to act in this, which I think is an incredible compliment to you. Like they were not only helping you with your dream, but they were encouraging you to be a star in it, which is fantastic. What was that like working with them? And then do you see like them being an innovative leader in the distribution model? Do you think more people should follow sort of their lead on distributing indie films?
Yeah, that's a good question. Working with them was they say never meet your heroes, but in my case, it worked out really
That's
great.
awesome.
Yeah, you hear all these nightmare stories from people who become an assistant or something and
Right.
they work for somebody who's a tyrant or something like that. And that wasn't the case. I don't know. They're just like two of the nicest people in the world. Him and his family would have me over at their house for my birthday and stuff like that. They really took care of me all the years and to let me make a movie and to finance it is one of the best gifts that anybody has ever given me. Yeah, to meet them and then to be on set with them on Togetherness, to watch the way they work and to learn from that, and to be next to Jay and Mark when they did the prep work and stuff like that. It was an invaluable learning experience for me to get to this point. In terms of, I would say the one thing that I learned from them, the distribution stuff is, I think that's beyond my capabilities. But I think the thing that I adopted from them and the thing that Jay, what he told me all the time was just to make stuff. You're going to be disappointed in the beginning with the stuff that you make because you haven't sharpened your skills or yeah, but like the more you do it, the better you're going to get at it. There's a great like Ira Glass clip where he talks about making art and about how your work doesn't match your tastes quite yet, but after doing it, eventually you'll get to that point. But it just, and that was their story too. They made their first feature, like very young in their filmmaking careers, and it almost broke their hearts and they almost quit. But then they kept making short films after that, and they finally made one that got into Sundance and it launched them. And that's the kind of spirit that I tried to embody when I worked for Jay, was just to make shorts and not break the bank on a little short film that I was making over the weekend so I could just keep making more. just getting those like reps in. But yeah, in terms of distribution model, I'm not sure about that. I know a lot of friends that I've met on this festival run that are self-distributing, and I'm sure all of them would love to have A24 help them. Yeah.
Awesome. So you're screening this in DC for the first time, February
Yeah.
14th, as we've mentioned. Go see that if you can. Okay,
Yes,
and I
please.
know DC is very important to you because you grew
Yeah.
up here. What are you? Why does that excite you? I know there's scenes in Paper Marriage that you filmed in DC. What about DC excites you and makes you excited about the screening on February 14th?
It's just where I grew up. I love DC. Yeah, I grew up in Durwood, Maryland. Spent most of my life there except for college and when I moved in to LA, but I always
Yeah,
think about moving back and stuff like that. But yeah, it's they say write what you know, right? And
right.
DC is very near and dear to me. My producer definitely convinced me to set the movie in LA a lot of times, and I don't know, not to knock LA, but
Right.
it's just not as interesting to me, like the landscape and stuff like that. I'm always going to be a DC kid at heart. I still root for the sports teams there, and really happy to see what the Commanders did.
Except for last weekend.
Yeah, I mean, it's the future is bright, but so yeah, it's yeah. I want to make more movies in DC. It's where I grew up, and I don't know how to explain it. It's
Yeah, no,
yeah,
that's a
I just
perfect explanation, Jeff. If somebody can't, they don't live in DC and they really want to see Paper Marriage, do you think it'll be available for streaming sometime this year? Do you anticipate more screenings throughout the country with the film over the next few months? If I'm a guy or gal wanting to watch this great rom com sometime this year, what would you tell them?
yeah. Cross your fingers. Hopefully, we get picked up sometime
Yeah,
soon, and we'll be online or streaming somewhere. I know they are like working on something, so hopefully. But I think we're gonna let the festival run go till the summer. We still have some
awesome.
festivals we're waiting to hear back from. Yeah. But if you really want to see it, I don't know, hit me up on Instagram. That's where I'm
Yeah, you're
announcing
very
all.
active. You're very active on Instagram. You'll post like your screenings.
I feel
Definitely
like I do
follow
the
you.
yeah. I feel like I do the very bare minimum. I've seen some of the other people that I've been on this festival run with, and compared to them, like I don't know how to. Yeah,
Like it must be exhausting. Like I know talking with So Young Shelly, she mentioned that she had seen, but she talked about how exhausted she was with just doing all of that, for Smoking
yeah,
Tigers.
yeah. I can imagine. Like it, I can sit around. I can sit here and for 3 hours thinking about what to post for the DC screening. Like I feel like yeah, I'm just not good at that, and I also worry that people are gonna get annoyed that of me like keep posting stuff like that.
I don't think so because I think if they're following you, they're cheering for you, and if
Yeah,
they're
yeah,
annoyed by you, then they're not actually that person is not actually cheering for you.
right,
It's not
right.
like you're selling like Amway products, Jeff. It's not
Sure,
like you're
sure.
like selling some $9 knife that you are constantly putting on the stories for people to buy. It's
Yeah,
like a film that you've given your heart and soul to it. You're like directing, acting, and writing in it. So if they won't take your promotion for it, they're probably not supportive of you, right?
that's true. And I know Shelly. I think she ran the. I don't know if I should say she. I know she did the Smoking Tigers like their official Instagram too. So it's a lot of work. Like
Yeah,
it's a
no,
lot of brain
she
power
she
on. Yeah,
she talked about how she was like flying from San Francisco back to New York for like screenings and all around, and it was just like just hearing about her travel itinerary was exhausting. But
yeah,
she was, getting out there and getting it done. And that's such a fantastic film. If you haven't seen it, go watch it now on
yeah.
HBO
It's
Max.
great.
I loved it. When I saw it, I was like, "This is one of my favorite films of the year." It's truly amazing, and she talked about how much she loved Paper Marriage. So that's how I found out about your film, Jeff. I think that's really fantastic filmmakers supporting other filmmakers.
Thank you, Shelly. That's it's quite a compliment. Yeah,
Yeah,
I love her movie too, and you almost get really nervous when you admire somebody's work like that because
right.
you want them to like you too. So I'm glad she did.
Right? Like somebody that talented, you're like, man, I hope she finds my film great. And Jeff,
Yeah,
it is great. I think you really do feel like you put your heart and soul into it. I'm sure there were a lot of moments in that where your family watched it and was like, "Oh, I recognize that." It felt like, even if
sure.
I'm sure you added some different fictional elements, but it certainly felt like true to life. It didn't feel like, wow, Jeff is really stretching reality to make this film.
Uh, that's good. That means that's what I was trying to do. Yeah, and I casted like my mom and dad played my mom and dad in the movie
Yeah.
as well. Yeah, weird. Like when you every time I finish a project, like a short or anything like that, and it works, it feels like you just got away with something. I know it takes a lot of work, but you kind of it's weird. I think when I first started making shorts out of college, I was a lot more cockier about the stuff that I was making, and those things are like I remember a long time ago I made a short and I thought the script was like brilliant and stuff like that. And then I remember when we were shooting it, the very first take, like I just sat there watching it and I was just in my brain, I was like, what is going on here? This is terrible. And yeah, I think the more I do it, the I think I have an understanding of what I can do and what works, but I'm not as cocky as I used to be. Yeah.
That's life, right? Is it like, if you're as cocky as you were when you started, then you wouldn't have learned anything in the
Yeah.
process.
Yeah. I'm a late bloomer. I feel like I feel like
So
yeah.
what's next for you, Jeff? If somebody loved Paper Marriage and they got the ability to see the film and they're like, "Man, I want some more Jeff Mann films. I want to see him acting in some more films." Can they see some of is Santa Claus available for streaming somewhere? If they're dying for more if somebody is listening and dying for more Jeff Mann content,
Sure.
what would you tell them?
Yeah, my Vimeo has Santa Claus. If you
Okay,
search on
I'll link
Vimeo,
that.
it's up there.
Yeah.
It's free. You don't have to pay for it. And then if you click on my little profile, like some of my shorts are on there too. A lot of them are like documentaries and stuff like that that I've done. Yeah, in terms of future, I'm in the immediate future. I'm getting married in March, so I'll have a
Yay,
real wedding.
congratulations.
Thank you. And then yeah, I'm constantly writing stuff. I've Paper Marriage, I think, was like the fourth feature that I've written. So I have other ones. So if somebody like Paper Marriage and you're filthy rich and want to invest, so yeah, I oh, you know what? I did write a. I don't know when it'll come out. I wrote a feature during the pandemic for somebody. Like it wasn't my original idea; it was someone else's. But they just needed somebody to write it. And I found out of nowhere back in May that they went into production. It's
Wow.
yeah, it's another like indie low budget feature about Kyrgyzstan immigrants. And yeah, they shot in Chicago back in May. I don't know where that's at right now, but it's called unless they change the title, it's called Only Heaven Knows. And yeah, maybe that'll come out sometime.
That's awesome. Do you see yourself sticking in the rom-com genre, making a rom-com that your fiance would like, or do you see yourself like making like an action film? What is your do you feel like you're specific to the genre of Paper Marriage?
I wouldn't say rom com specifically. Some of my favorite. If somebody wanted me to make the kind of movie that my fiance likes, yeah,
Yeah.
for the right amount of money, I would totally do.
What
Immediate. It's not
My wife
immediate.
is gonna love this, but what kind of rom-com does she like? My wife is all about You've Got Mail. That's like her favorite rom-com. What kind of like how do you distinguish between one that your
Oh
wife
man.
likes and then like another rom-com?
Uh, she likes the really trashy stuff that's on
Okay.
Netflix. Although
Okay.
I think her favorite all time is Love Actually, which is a good one.
That's a great one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so that one I can watch. Some of the other ones that, yeah, I'm not so sure, but
That they just pump out on Netflix and like streamers for like,
exactly, yeah,
you know,
she's watching those all the time. But yeah, I think for me, if I had my career the way I wanted, I would just keep telling these human kind of stories. Right now, one of my favorite directors is Mike Leigh, the British filmmaker, and I've seen Hard Truths twice already in theaters, and those are the kind of films that I gravitate towards. Him and Japanese director Koreeda, like those kind of things. Yeah, that kind of explore the like the laughter and heartbreak in life. And I don't know if it's not going to sell tickets, I don't think.
It
But
could for people who listen to the podcast.
yeah, no, yeah. I wish people watched more movies like that. I feel like we'd be a lot more empathetic towards each other. Maybe that's
Hell
that's a
yeah.
feeling that I get when I watch those movies. Like, yeah,
I feel the same way, Jeff.
yeah.
And as indie film podcast, love hyping other people's projects. You just mentioned two great directors, but I'll give you another chance here. If there is a filmmaker or film that you wish more people knew about,
Oh wow, yeah. I'll return the favor. Smoking Tigers on HBO Max. It's
completely. Yeah.
that's one for sure. It was I don't know. I was just so impressed by that movie. It's very mature and love the pacing of that movie
And the
and
shots, just a lot of the shots with the water and just everything. She did such a phenomenal. I was so impressed with that
yeah,
film. I was like,
that one. And then I saw a really great horror comedy at San
ooh,
Diego Asian Film Festival called Dead Talent Society.
ooh, I like that.
I don't know if because I think Sony, I think it was like a Sony movie, but I don't know if it'll ever get released in the United States. But yeah, it's like one of those Edgar Wright almost films. In fact, I think that was the first time I had that much fun in a movie, a horror comedy, since Shaun of the Dead. I would love if they ever remade that in America. I feel like that would do so well if they did it right.
Right.
Not that they need to. But I wish people would just watch that version, but you could totally remake that, and I think it would do really well. Actually, you know what? There's this documentary that I would love people to watch.
Yeah.
I saw this many years ago at the Los Angeles Asian Pacific Film Festival. It was called Becoming Who I Was, and it's this documentary about this like Buddhist monk who takes care of this kid who when the kid was born, he was deemed to be like the reincarnation of this like high
Ooh,
lama. And
right.
so his job was to take care of this kid until he was old enough to take him to this monastery where he would live for the rest of his life and live as this high lama. And some complications like arise, and the people that are supposed to come and get the kid never come because of border problems between Tibet and China. So the monk just takes it upon himself and said, "We're going to walk by foot and I'm going to take you to the monastery myself." So it's like this foot journey with this monk and this kid traveling to get there. And it's like, it's one of the most like beautiful acts of love I've ever seen captured, like just their bond and stuff like that. I was crying my eyes out during that movie. I don't think anybody else has ever watched that movie, but if there's one movie I'd like people to watch.
That's a great answer. And most of the time, Jeff, people have that I send the questions ahead of time. So you
Yeah.
did this all blind without knowing that I was going to ask you that. So that's really impressive. The film is Paper Marriage. It's screening in Washington D.C. on Valentine's Day. Should definitely go check it out. It's a fantastic
Yes.
film. You can stay around and ask Jeff what his favorite color is at the end of it, which plays a role. Like you'll see in the film, they had to know things about each other to get through the interview. But it's a fantastic film. Go see it in February 14th, or if you have the opportunity to see it elsewhere in the United States, follow Jeff Mann on Instagram or other social media to find out about future screenings. Jeff, thank you so much for joining me today on the podcast. This was so much fun. I had so much fun talking with you and going through different films and how Paper Marriage came to be. You're a delightful guy and ultra talented, right? You're directing, you're acting, you're writing. This was
Thank you.
fantastic to talk with you. Thanks for joining me today on the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. This is really cool. Thank you, Shelly.
live next door.
Yeah.
Are you Chinese? 你可以讲中文吗？
I'm sorry, I don't understand.